The rain was relentless that night in Seattle, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. Kendrick, a 44-year-old architect, had always prided myself on my meticulous nature, my ability to see the structure beneath the surface. Little did I know that the foundation of my own life, my marriage to Meredith, was riddled with cracks I had been too blind to notice. We had met at a design conference in Chicago 15 years ago. Meredith, with her fiery red hair and equally fiery intellect, had captivated me instantly. She was everything I wasn't: bold, outspoken, a force of nature. I, on the other hand, was the quiet observer, the steady hand. We balanced each other, or so I thought. Our life in Seattle was comfortable, predictable. We lived in a modern house I had designed myself, overlooking Puget Sound. Meredith worked as a marketing executive, always climbing the corporate ladder. I poured my passion into my architectural projects, creating spaces that were both functional and beautiful. The first sign, the initial tremor in our seemingly solid ground, came in the form of a misplaced phone. Meredith had left her phone at home, something she never did. I found it on the kitchen counter, buzzing incessantly with notifications. Curiosity, that insidious serpent, coiled within me. I knew I shouldn't. I knew invading her privacy was wrong. But the feeling that something was amiss gnawed at me, a persistent itch I couldn't ignore. With trembling hands, I picked up her phone. It wasn't locked. A wave of guilt washed over me, followed by a surge of adrenaline. I navigated to her email, my heart pounding in my chest. The most recent email was from someone named Jasper. The subject line read, "Tonight." My breath hitched in my throat. I clicked on the email, the words blurred before my eyes. It was a short, suggestive message, hinting at a clandestine meeting. My mind struggled to make sense of it. Jasper? Who was Jasper? I scrolled through the rest of the emails. There were dozens, spanning several months, each one more explicit than the last. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The air was thick, suffocating. My hands shook so violently I could barely hold the phone. The world tilted on its axis. My wife, the woman I had shared my life with for 15 years, was having an affair. The rain outside intensified, drumming against the windows like a relentless accusation. I sank into a chair, the phone slipping from my grasp. The reality of the situation crashed down on me, crushing me beneath its weight. Meredith was cheating on me, with someone named Jasper, someone I didn't even know. That night, Meredith came home late, her cheeks flushed, her eyes sparkling with an unnatural brightness. "Long day at work," she said, her voice a little too cheerful. I stared at her, my heart a leaden weight in my chest. I wanted to scream, to confront her, to demand an explanation. But the words caught in my throat, choked by a mixture of disbelief and pain. I played along, pretending everything was normal. I cooked dinner, we ate in silence, the unspoken betrayal hanging between us like a toxic cloud. After dinner, I excused myself and went to the study, closing the door behind me. I needed to think, to process. But my mind was a whirlwind of emotions: anger, hurt, confusion. I paced the room, my thoughts racing. Who was Jasper? How long had this been going on? Why? What had I done wrong? Sleep eluded me that night. I tossed and turned, haunted by images of Meredith with another man. The rain continued to fall, a constant reminder of the storm raging within me. When morning finally arrived, I was exhausted, my eyes burning, my head throbbing. I knew I couldn't continue to live in this state of uncertainty, of silent accusation. I needed to confront Meredith. I needed to know the truth. I waited for her to come down for breakfast, my heart pounding in my chest. When she finally appeared, dressed in a crisp business suit, her hair perfectly coiffed, I took a deep breath and spoke. "Meredith, we need to talk," I said, my voice barely a whisper. She looked at me, her expression unreadable. "About what?" she asked, her voice cool, detached. I hesitated for a moment, then plunged in. "About Jasper," I said, watching her reaction. For a brief moment, her composure faltered. Her eyes widened, a flicker of panic crossing her face. But she quickly regained control, her expression hardening. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, her voice flat. "Don't lie to me, Meredith," I said, my voice rising. "I saw the emails. I know about Jasper." She remained silent for a moment, her eyes fixed on mine. Then she sighed, a sound of resignation. "Fine," she said. "Yes, there is a Jasper. What do you want me to say?" I felt a surge of anger, hot and blinding. "I want you to tell me the truth," I said, my voice trembling. How long has this been going on? Why? She looked away, avoiding my gaze. It started a few months ago, she said, her voice barely audible. I don't know why, I guess I was bored. You were always so busy with your work, I felt neglected. Her words stung, but I refused to let her shift the blame. That's no excuse, Meredith, I said, my voice cold. You made a choice. You betrayed me. She didn't respond, her silence a tacit admission of guilt. I stared at her, my heart breaking into a million pieces. The woman I loved, the woman I had built my life with, had shattered my trust, my faith, my very being. I want you to leave, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. She looked at me, her eyes filled with surprise. What? She asked. I want you to leave, I repeated, my voice firm. I can't do this anymore. I can't live with you knowing what you've done. She didn't argue. She simply nodded, her eyes filled with tears. Okay, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I'll pack my things. She left that day, taking with her 15 years of memories, of shared dreams, of a life that was now irrevocably broken. I watched her go, my heart a hollow ache in my chest. The rain had finally stopped, but the storm inside me continued to rage. The following weeks were a blur of paperwork, of legal proceedings, of emotional turmoil. The divorce was quick and relatively painless, but the emotional scars ran deep. I sold the house, unable to bear the memories it held. I moved into a small apartment downtown, a sterile, impersonal space that reflected my own emptiness. I threw myself into my work, seeking solace in the familiar rhythm of design and construction. But even that couldn't fill the void Meredith had left. I was haunted by her betrayal, by the knowledge that the woman I had loved had been lying to me for months. One evening, a few months after the divorce, I received a phone call. It was from an unknown number. I hesitated for a moment, then answered it. Hello, I said, my voice cautious. Is this Kendrick? A woman's voice asked. Yes, it is, I said. My name is Vivienne, she said. I'm Jasper's wife. My breath caught in my throat. Jasper's wife. What did she want? I know about the affair, she said, her voice trembling. Jasper told me everything. I remained silent, unsure of what to say. I'm so sorry, she said, her voice filled with emotion. I had no idea. If I had known, I would have stopped it. I felt a flicker of sympathy for her. She was a victim too, betrayed by the man she had loved. It's not your fault, I said, my voice softening. You didn't do anything wrong. I know, she said, but I still feel responsible. I feel like I should have seen the signs. We talked for a long time that night, sharing our stories of betrayal and heartbreak. We found solace in each other's pain, a sense of camaraderie in our shared experience. Over the next few months, Vivienne and I became close friends. We spent hours talking on the phone, sharing our thoughts and feelings. We met for coffee, for dinner, for walks in the park. We found comfort in each other's company, a sense of healing in our shared pain. One day, Vivienne told me that she was leaving Jasper. She couldn't forgive him for what he had done. She was starting over, rebuilding her life from scratch. I admired her strength, her resilience. She was an inspiration to me, a beacon of hope in the darkness. As time went on, my feelings for Vivienne began to change. I found myself drawn to her warmth, her kindness, her unwavering spirit. I realized that I was falling in love with her. I hesitated to tell her how I felt, afraid of rejection, afraid of ruining our friendship. But I couldn't deny my feelings any longer. I had to take a chance. One evening, we were having dinner at a small Italian restaurant. The atmosphere was intimate, the candlelight flickering on our faces. I took a deep breath and spoke. Vivienne, I said, my voice trembling. I need to tell you something. She looked at me, her eyes filled with curiosity. What is it? She asked. I'm in love with you, I said, my voice barely a whisper. She stared at me, her eyes wide with surprise. She didn't say anything for a long moment. Then she smiled, a warm, radiant smile that lit up her face. I'm in love with you too, Kendrick, she said. We embraced, our hearts overflowing with joy. We had both been through so much pain, so much heartbreak. But we had found love again in the most unexpected of places. Our relationship wasn't without its challenges. We both carried scars from our past betrayals, but we were committed to building a future together, a future based on trust, honesty, and unwavering love. We married a year later in a small ceremony overlooking Puget Sound. The rain was falling that day, but this time it didn't feel like an accusation. It felt like a blessing, a symbol of cleansing and renewal. Meredith eventually moved to another state, seeking a fresh start. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she was doing well, that she had found happiness. I didn't harbor any resentment towards her. I had forgiven her, not for her sake, but for my own. I had learned a valuable lesson from my experience. I had learned that betrayal can be devastating, but it can also be a catalyst for growth. I had learned that forgiveness is essential for healing. And I had learned that love can blossom in the most unexpected of places, even in the aftermath of heartbreak. My life with Vivienne was everything I had ever dreamed of. We were partners, lovers, best friends. We supported each other, challenged each other, and loved each other unconditionally. We had built a life together based on honesty, trust, and mutual respect. And as I stood there, watching the rain fall on our wedding day, I knew that I had finally found my happily ever after.